what's going to be covered today. So let's just go through that. There we go. So what will be covered today? First, we'll be looking at what search optimization even is. What is search optimization? What is search engine marketing? What those two things look like. Then we're going to be going into why SEO is so important. And then the third thing we'll be looking at is examples of how SEO can either make or break your business. And finally, we're going to learn how to set up, how to set up your structure and your search engine optimization. So going into it, we're going to be looking into, so why should we actually listen today? So who am I? Why are you listening? I'm the author of The Ultimate Guide to Digital Marketing for Home Service Contractors and How to Double or Even Quadruple Sales by Cracking the Digital Marketing Code. I've spoken about industrial events, throughout the United States and been widely accepted as an industry expert in some of the digital marketing and home service contractors. I think the basis of some of the biggest marketing issues that we're using is we're trying to double or even quadruple the sales. Now, I've spoken to some folks and it ranges. You can double your sales and you can go all the way up to 10 times what it should be. So if you're one of the clients on today, we appreciate you plugging in and paying attention and just taking the opportunity and the time out of your day to really enrich yourself in some of the knowledge that we are going to be covering today. And then I also want to, show exactly how we generate better results, and that's done by increasing leads. And then finally, we look at maximize conversions and optimizing the results. The Digital Marketing Wizard is actually set up so that way we are going to be accepting calls and web forms and chats and FAQs, you name it. We got it set up, and that's easily set up by just going to thedigitalmarketingwizard.com. So the next thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at the accelerated growth model. Now, this is what's especially good because the accelerated growth model is really consisting of three things that you're going to need to accelerate any kind of growth you're looking for in your business. First is going to be drive leads. We're going to maximize conversion, and we're going to optimize results. Now, so those are the three fundamentals that we start with. It eventually gets to a point where we're going a little further than that. We're driving leads by doing other factors. We're maximizing conversion by adding more to that, and then we're going to be optimizing those results. And so that's what we're going to hear a lot today. Optimizations being, search engine optimization. We're also going to make sure we're throwing a lot of focus in there as well. And back to the point of driving leads. Yes, we're going to be using our organic SEO. So with the organic SEO, that's basically the stuff that you're doing on your website. Anything that's going to be covered there is, your H1 title tags, the content, the amount of service tabs you have, each pages within the services. I've explained this in a very simple and easy way with organic SEO. Organic SEO is basically the engine that you're going to be using to communicate with Google. And Google has a very, if I break it down into a simpler terms, it's essentially going to be a +1 or -1 strategy. And so if you're doing things right, hey, +1, +1, +1, +1. And if everything is done right, you have a bunch of points and you rank really high. You get to the #1 page and you're able to get a lot of information out of that. But if you have some errors or things that aren't optimized the way they should be, then Google's going to ding you points. You're going to get a -1, -1, -1. And that can really lower your ranking on the Google scale. So if you actually Google yourself and use some of those keywords, you can find out where you're landing. And so if you're somewhere within the top 5 results, great. Majority of results are coming there. But if not, then you're actually gonna have to work on figuring out why that's not happening. And the main cause of that most likely is going to be the organic SEO aspect of that. And then we're going to look into paid search because that's a great way to get leads. That this is like Google ads, Bing ads, Facebook ads, any kind of Google local service ads, the Google Guarantee program, anything that you're paying for to actually get more customers in. This is what's to be covered in the paid search. And using your known database. You probably have a database of customers that you're reaching out to now, and about how do you refresh that database? Are you paying for active leads? Are you getting more? Is it word of mouth? Are you going through yellow pages? What is that process actually looking like? And then we're to figure out how to communicate with them. That's a big portion of that. I think we want to reach out and have multiple methods. You want to have a via phone method. You want to have a via SMS, email, and even like a web form chat function set up. So all those things are going to be covered. From there, like I said, we're moving on to maximize conversions. There's three main components here. One thing we want to do is we want to make sure that websites are built to convert. And when they're built to convert, they have the all right conversion elements in place. You want to make sure you have, like I said, I mentioned out some of those online bookings. You want to have the chat features. You want to make sure that your website is converting at least 25 to 30% from visitor to lead. And then reputation. Reputation is basically, what the word of mouth is saying about you, what your online reviews are saying. If you have, a couple reviews, then yeah, you want to get something in place. And I know that there's going to be softwares involved that can really help out in that place. And I mentioned those, a little bit down the road in this webinar. We'll talk about what systems are actually used to help out reviews and improve your reputation. But if your reputation is getting tarnished, that's going to be the number one killer of website, and it's really going to, it would show the exact reason why you're not maximizing your conversions. And then finally, we have the automation aspect. A big part of this is going to be, figuring out ways to make sure work is getting done without you having to, completely be on top of it and do every single aspect of that. I think a bigger impact that it has nowadays is the phone calls, emails. If your customers are reaching out to you and they can't get a hold of you, it goes right to voicemail. It's not followed up within 15 minutes. I believe that's the lead time. A lead actually goes cold, and they're going to for sure look for someone else. And that's just silly ways to lose customers if you don't have to. I think one of the biggest things to set that up is, they have software out there where customer calls in and you say no one's able to answer the phone, an automatic SMS will get back to them and say, hey, you know what? You just got your call. I might be working with the customer right now. I'm going to get back to you within the next 5-10 minutes. And that satiates that customer's need to be, contacted in that short little time period, so that we're not going to leave you and go to someone else. Those are just crucial elements. Not to mention, there are callback features that some softwares are using where even though, they missed the call, an AI, driven platform is going to be calling you back saying, hey, we're also not, same kind of messaging of, we're not available at the moment, but give me a couple minutes and I'm going to make sure I'll give you a call right after that. So if we're not putting in kind of automation sequences to follow up with, unconverted opportunities, then you're really letting a lot of the potential clients slip through the cracks. And then finally, we're going to be looking at the optimized results. The first one going into that is going to be, let's see here, total spend. What does your total spend look like? And from there, we're going to be trying to figure out, how much are we spending to hit those results that we're actually looking for, which makes sense. But I think if you have an actual budget, you have these goals, it's going to set things up a little simpler and a little easier to make sure that you're actually able to achieve those goals. And then we're going to be looking at your average cost per lead. Average cost per lead, it's the numbers aspect of it. If you know how much you're paying for each customer, then you're able to say, hey, is this too much or is it not enough? And you're able to kind of tip the balances either way to figure out if you're not paying enough or if you're not. I think with average cost per lead, though, majority of the time, we're trying to get those costs down. If you're not getting enough money to get your cost per lead set up properly, then I think that's also another big aspect. So it's both ends of the spectrum. If you're too heavy-handed or not heavy-handed enough, you're not really going to make it. It's going to need that really sweet spot. And once you find that sweet spot, you want to be able to cut down the costs to the exact number that you want to be at. And I think that's a lot harder than it sounds, but there are systems in place to help you, and that's what we're going to get to a little bit down the road. I have a whole webinar planned out for how to get your cost per leads down and how to do that the right way without spending too much money and without not having enough money to get the customers that you really need. And then the ROI. I think the last thing we got to do is figure out that ROI. What's your return on investment? How are we doing this? And like I said, with our agency, we're looking to at least double or quadruple what you're currently at. And that's why we take on the clients that we do, is because we're able to see the results. We have the potential within the company, and we just have to use our methods. And it's like I said, it's a digital dominance method. What we do is, there's not just one thing that's going to make you successful. You're not just going to build a website and then all the customers are coming out of a very successful business. You're not just going to set up a Google Ads and then all of a sudden everyone's going to flock and your business is going to flourish. It's a multitude of things. And like I said, you have to have your foundation set up properly to be able to build and like kind of build out your empire to get to where you want to go. So that's why understanding what your goals are and understanding the steps that are needed to build those foundations, so it's set up to, not only convert and maximize and drive these leads, but to also scale that up to build to a point where you really want to see the business take over. There's a lot that goes on with that. And I love it. I said I have so many webinars planned just to go over each one of these topics. Our last webinar, which is definitely worth checking out, was the Google Ads, how to maximize your Google Ads and where most Google Ads fail. I think that was really a great webinar to check out if you haven't seen it yet. I explained why over 61% of Google Ads fail. And that means a majority of the Google Ads that are up there right now are failing. And there are reasons why. Go check that out if you haven't, or if you just want to know the information right now, please type in the comments or reach out to me directly, DM me, go directly to our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, or even just reach out on our website. Feel free, digitalmarketingwizard.com/contact, strategy session. There's multiple ways for us to reach out to you. So going into our accelerated growth model, this is kind of like the same format. We just kind of expanded it out. And today we are really focusing on the organic SEO aspect. And I want to show you exactly why these things are so important. Okay, so what is SEO? SEO means the process of improving your website to increase its visibility to Google, Microsoft Bing, and other search engines. Like DuckDuckGo is another one that's out there. It's popular, but not too many people know about that. And the reason why is because Google is, dominating where the customers. I believe it's 87%, or I believe a little bit higher than that, of searches for the service industries go directly through Google. That's where everybody looks for their information. So that's a large chunk of the pie. And so if you're not using Google, which is kind of unfathomable in these modern days, then it's just it's baffling. I see some people who are just relying on Yelp, and those are things that you can't do nowadays. You can't just rely on Yelp. You gotta look out and see where the majority of your customers are going. And like I said, Microsoft Bing, that's where you follow up. So if you're on Google, you might as well follow up with Bing, just so that way you're getting the rest of that pool. Because, I believe, so there's an old fishing quote, if you know where the fish are going to be, or you know where they are, you're not going to go hungry. And it's the same thing. Your customers are going to be in Google. You want to make sure you're there to help them out and make sure that you can get to exactly where you need. So with this example, I like to go into, what SEO is with like a broad aspect of it. So imagine that you have a guy named Paul. Paul's a plumber and he wants to start a plumbing business. What he does is he eventually goes to a website and he gets one created and he names it paultheplumber.com. And hey, things are great, but for some reason, people aren't just flocking to the website. He's still having issues of, okay, I have a website up, I paid a lot of money for it, but customers aren't here. Build it and they will come. Somehow just didn't happen. So what happened? What caused that? And then I think SEO, this is another aspect of the SEO, it really helps you to rank higher on Google and other search engines. So I think when Paul builds a website and everyone's not coming to it, it's because of the rank. They're not able to get exactly where his customers are needed. And if you're not where your customers are, it's going to be extremely hard for anyone to find you and for you to reach out to them. So it's about trying to go a little bit further into what's actually going on. And then another aspect of that, I think we'll go into some of the SEO, meaning where you can optimize certain aspects of your web page and your website to communicate with Google's algorithm. And like I said, I explained that there's like a +1, -1 point. That's all done with your SEO work. And so what you want to do is you want to get your SEO set up properly, and you want to make sure that you have quality from this. And if you could, SEO improves the quality and the quantity of your website, as well as, allowing your audience to come to you from the search engines. See, and not only that, but it actually allows uh, people from search engines like Google and Bing to communicate to your customers, the people that you actually want to get to. And it can improve your brand awareness. You can even attract some local customers and build your credibility, your trust in your business and your website. And Google algorithm is actually able to recognize these things. So um, you could do a lot of that without actually having to spend a single dollar. And that's why I think the big benefits of SEO is you're able to take some of your future in your own hands, and actively make changes that can produce results at no cost. And that's a huge thing. So I know being in the industry, you've probably noticed some of the big guys, some of the roto companies, some of the main industries, the people who are making millions, multi-million dollars, hundreds of $1 million a year set up across the nation, are also in those number one spots. They're ranking up high. And a lot of people like to naturally assume that they're just throwing millions of dollars into marketing, which they do, and that's how they achieve those results. But that's not how you need to achieve the results. We can actually set up SEO. Someone who's knowledgeable and takes this information, watch webinars like this, goes out and gets some little certificates, can actually do these changes as well, all on their own, and make it to the number 1, 2, or 3 spot on Google. It doesn't take millions of dollars to compete with these large, multi-conglomerate companies. So I think that's one of the big things I wanted to capitalize to say, hey, it's not just you, And so the next thing I want to go into would be a little bit about SEO and the different types of SEO. So right now we're looking at the on-page SEO. There's on-page and off-page SEO. So first we're going to cover the on-page. So with the example of Paul the plumber, let me see here. He's using on-page SEO to try to bring more visitors to his website. He's looking at the on-page and off-page aspects of SEO, and he realizes that you really need to optimize your website. And the way you do that is by having not only the technical elements, but you need a lot of content on there as well. I'm sure you've probably heard the phrase, and if you haven't, it really is true here. Content is king. Having good content and actionable content on your website, it just helps you out. Google algorithm recognizes this, and it comes from your customers. Your customers could also, learn something from your website, and if they find it's beneficial, then that translates over. It really does make a big impact on your SEO. So this includes things like not only your content, about you, about the business, but also I believe it does help for, like I said, blogs, posting good blogs. Here's how we add some more value to some of the conversations we're having without even having to talk to me. It allows your customers to kind of get a sneak preview on who they're working with, what they're working with, and what kind of value you're bringing to the table without ever having to talk to them. And then another factor that we're going to look at is you have to understand keywords or like the search terms. This is what it is, the search terms, and how that integrates with your website. So once you learn, how those things integrate with your website, the next thing you're going to do is you want to learn the off-page SEO aspects of that. And with the off-page, you want to look. There's a couple things. You're looking at link building, site scripts, videos, multimedia, social media. There's a lot of different aspects of that, but I think for looking at an example, Paul, off-page elements are the elements that aren't on your website. They're somewhere where you have to go away from your website to get this taken care of. And that's what I'm saying is with like social media. That's a great way. You have your Facebook page, you have your Twitter page. You're going to have directories set up. So that way, like old school directories would be like yellow pages. That was something was super beneficial. You needed something done. You went to the yellow pages. You saw exactly where someone was at. With Google, they kind of improved that process, and they digitized it, but things got a little muddied up. We don't know exactly what the yellow pages. I mean, you can go to yellowpages.com, but it doesn't have everyone on there like it used to. So that's what the directories do. Directories allow you to go into like a virtual web pages, and it will add you onto like the yellow pages, but it adds you onto multiple websites and allows your website to communicate back to these websites. And it's called that process is called backlinking. And if you have backlinks set up, that's another thing where Google's algorithm is going to give a +1, +2 score on that. And then another thing that you're going to look at is that there's much more that goes into off-page SEO, but these are some of the broad main topics. And then what we're going to do is to increase popularity, or your relevance, your trustworthiness, and your credibility, which is ultimately your authority. Some of the things that you're going to need to do is also being done on your off-page SEO. So I think when you're looking at SEO, especially if you're taking this from the view of Paul the plumber, if you do these things and you build up, your popularity, relevance, trustworthiness, and your authority, then you're really starting to do well, but you're still barely scratching the surface of what SEO really can do for you. So I want to go into why SEO matters, and I think this is the greatest a statistic that I have in this presentation is that 71% of all clicks go to the map and the organic listing. So the map would obviously be here, and the organic listings are the names that come right after that. And even if you expand more into the map, after those first three names, those are your organic listings. Then we notice that 11% of the clicks are sent directly to paid search ads. So the paid search ads are right above this this map here, and those are kind of like a revolving door. Everyone who's paying for their sponsored ads eventually gets a turn to get it up on top, but that's not where the eyes of customers are going nowadays. I mean, it's nice to have, it's great to have, everyone likes to see it there, but if you look at, I mean, we're looking at this example, Roto-Rooter, and they're advertising as a sponsored, paid ad, and we're looking down right below that into the organic search within the top 3 results. They're not within those top 3 results, and I think that says something. So if we look at the number 1 results, which is John's Plumbing and Draining, and he had a paid ad right above that, then I would think, hey, you know what? This guy really has something set up to the point where, he has sponsored ads, he's doing his organic listing, he's number 1 on Google. He might know what he's talking about. And then if you look at the reviews, they have a large amount of reviews. Okay, hey, you know what? This person might be worth calling. And that's how the customer mindset really comes about. And I mentioned this before, 67% of all people click on the first 5 listings. So right now we're only looking at the number 1, 2, and 3 spots. And those get an even larger percentage of the majority of the results. So if you really want to excel, you really want your SEO to take you places, the SEO is going to allow you to, fast track to the top of these first 3 results or the first 5. I know it's great to be on the first page, but a majority of people aren't going to scroll all the way down to the bottom of that page, and they're not going to click on the next button to go to the next pages, and they're not going to go deep 4, 5, 6 pages deep to look for someone, because it just all the elements tell them not to do that. So they're going to be looking within the first 3 are essentially sponsored on their own. If you make it in the top 3, that's great, because you're instantly there. And if you make it to the top 5, yeah, someone wants to know a little bit more, you click a little deeper, boom, they're also going to get a good piece of that pie. So that's why SEO matters, is we're trying to allow it to bring us as high as we can into the ads. And so when someone comes up to you and say, hey, I can get you to the number 1 spot in Google, I think that's when some of these things come up. Hey, do you know how you're going to do that? Is it just with paid ads? Because only 11% of those are actually being clicked. Or is it going to be organic listings? And so let them throw some statistics out there, see how that does. I think that's why we cover why SEO matters with us. And I'm sorry, and those are going to be some stats from, I see, Mozcast featuring Moz. Those are some of the most recent stats I was able to grab. Another one, as I have some stats from Bright Edge, Backlinks, SparkToro, a couple different versions of it. And this is going into why SEO is so important. And it's because 68% of all online experiences begin with a search engine. That's Google, Bing, etc. DuckDuckGo. It's another one. 53% of all website traffic comes from some of the organic searches. So that means over half, which is the majority, comes from people just looking in a normal way and not trying to figure out if we're going to be using a sponsored ad or not. And then it's more reliable. I think you'll find out that SEO has 1,000% more traffic than organic social media. And social media, I'll show you as this webinar kind of unfolds. I have this pyramid that kind of goes through the steps and the foundations of how to build these things out correctly. And I know this number, it looks like a large number, which it is, but I think when you're comparing it, when you get your SEO set up properly, it dominates on why it's so important and how it could get you up to those top pages. Whereas social media, it is great to have. It's a great way to communicate. It's a great way to advertise. But I think you need to have other elements set up first. When Paul the plumber sets up, he's not going to be using his Facebook account to try to get his customers. He's going to create a website first and then try to get that optimized. So it's the same process here. We don't rely on social media to get a lot of our things done or a lot of these things. But if you do have that, it only adds to your benefits. So I just want to make that clear. And then we look at here, almost 70% of searches contains 4 words or more. So I have a list of keywords. I have that they go into this. I have that later down the presentation, so we'll get to that. But I mean, if you look at it, you have to understand what these keywords actually stem from. What are your customers searching? What are those words that they're typing? And like I said, this is a majority. I mean, 70%, we're almost at 3/4 of the people who search. And if they're doing it with 4 words or more, you need to know what those words are going to be. And then SEO, they have higher close ratios. So not only are you going to get, quality leads, but they're going to be leads that are going to be more profitable than other avenues. And like I said, these are the statistics from Bright Edge. I found this to be super fascinating that, when you look at leads and how they come in, be able to find them directly from your SEO, your search engine optimization, it just blows my mind that that's where the quality is really coming from. And a lot of people think it's the opposite. Like I said, with these multi-million-dollar companies throwing millions of dollars on advertising marketing, that's not what it takes to be number one. It's the SEO and building your foundations right. This is another great one, is the understanding Google's algorithm. So these are some of the updates and some of the algorithms that have been applied to Google to really find out what websites rank, how they get there, and kind of the path that's taken to get to that number 1 spot. And there's a big reason why this is done. This was done because in the past, if you look at the Panda update was one for backlinks. And backlinks, as I explained, was a way where, let's say you're on the yellowpages.com. You have your listing, your business, your name, and a link back to your website. That's the backlink. It says, hey, another website is essentially vouching for you and sending them to your website. And there's a way to get that out there to 1 million websites. And that's what people were doing. They were going to anywhere. You might even be able to get to a Costco website and add your information on there, and that'll give you, a big point. And so everyone was adding it to every aspect of the internet, anywhere and everywhere, and it was getting really spammy. And so that's why that Panda update was set up, is to reduce the amount of backlinks to only relevant backlinks. And so that's a big part of the listings aspect of that. Another example is the Penguin. The Penguin, update is another crucial one, which is still super relevant to your website. And this is probably, a big thing that you could take home with you is the Penguin update focused on duplicate content. Duplicate content, it was another thing. If you have your services and, let's say plumbing, you got your hydrojetting, you got, some of your trenchless services. If you just had like your plumbing generalization and you copied that and you had new pages and you just changed the title of everything, or you're doing that for like, your service areas, you have different service areas and you're combining that with your services and you're saying, hey, this is what we do in San Francisco. This is what we do in Oakland. This is what we do in San Jose. This is what we're doing in LA. If you're doing that and you're not changing any of the content, that's really, you're going to be dinged points by Google's algorithm because they're looking for that. They want to find unique content and they don't want something that's been copied. So sometimes, if you go to some of these freelancers are able to just copy someone else's website. Hey, this sounds good. It looks like it's going to do right. We'll just add it here. Google's able to recognize that, hey, all this content has been copied from somewhere else and it's just being duplicated. Not to mention, if it's duplicated on your own website multiple times, yeah, you get dinged a bunch of points and then you start dropping in rank. So that's just one of the big ones. And then one of the most recent ones, I think within the last month or two, has been the spam update. It's called Spam Brain. That's not on my list yet. I was just checking into this, but it was an AI-based platform where they actively look for spam and they get rid of it, which is great because none of us want to go out there and get a spam with a bunch of different um, irrelevant information. So there, like I said, as you look through, there have been multiple algorithms and updates throughout the years, and each one of them has been something beneficial. And if you're having someone who's doing this work for you, they got to understand what these updates are because that's what SEO is about. This is directly designed to optimize search engines. And if you know that, hey, the Penguin update is for duplicated content, then hey, I don't want to have duplicated content. If you know that the Panda update that set up for some backlinks and not to go overboard, not to have too few of them and not too many of them, then that these are all good things. Rank local NAP. Your NAP standing for your name, address, and phone number. If that's different, that's one of my favorite ones. In our last webinar, we went over the NAP strategy. And that essentially says that if you have your company name and the address and phone number on out there on the internet, and let's say you moved, Paul the plumber, he went from San Francisco to Oakland, but he didn't change some of that information on old directories, the yellow pages, his Facebook page, then Google's algorithm is going to go find everywhere that company's name is mentioned, what their address was, and if they found out that you've moved or changed your phone number, but that information is still on the site, again, you're going to get dinged points, and that's a big one. The NAP strategy is it takes a large chunk of your rankings. They wanted to make sure that information was relevant because that's how it is. If you call business and they're like, hey, we moved, or this isn't the correct phone number, it's really bad on Google and it just leaves a really bad customer experience. So that's why those things were set into place, and it really does make a huge impact. So going into, again, I mentioned this a lot. This is our foundational pyramid. I love it. It's kind of like, I give the examples of like a food pyramid and why that's so important. This is your SEO. Well, this is your whole digital marketing strategy thrown into one. And your organic foundation is the beginning of it. That is your SEO. Your SEO is your foundation. And so if you notice right above that, it's your paid search ads. That's Google ads, local service ads, any kind of Google guarantee program that you're going to set up with, Bing ads, anything that's going through there. If you start using that first, you're not going to do well because the foundation before that, your SEO, isn't set up and optimized properly. And so it's going to crumble. If you don't have foundations set up when you're building your house, it's going to crumble. Any kind of wind blows, your house is going to fall down. Any kind of rain happens, you're going to be leaking. You want to make sure your foundations are solid, and there's nothing more solid than making sure your SEO is set up right. If you have your SEO set up right, then it paves the way for paid search, Google ads. And when Google ads are set up and optimized with your SEO, you see far more benefits than if you're just doing your paid search alone and skipping that organic foundation. Now, let's say you have your organic foundation set up. You just started your Google, your Google ads and your local service ads. Then you want to start taking it a little further. You want to look into paid directories, and then again, that's how you get those backlinks out there. And then you want to look for pay per lead. I know we all have the pay per click out there with that Google ads, but then you want to actually look at your leads, and that's why when we go into some of those, some of these next webinars where we're trying to reduce the cost, the cost per lead, this is how you do it. You want to make sure everything's set up properly. And then once that's taken care of, and like I said, these are just making sure that the foundations are set up right and you're using a multi-encompassing system. You're getting your SEO, you got your Google ads, you're using your paid lead systems, and then you're adding your social media and advertising on social media. Now, I gotta say, you gotta know what makes sense for your audience. Is your audience on Facebook? Maybe, or are they on TikTok? I think the numbers haven't come in yet, but I don't think a majority of your ads are going to be coming on TikTok, but it is growing at a phenomenal rate. So it's definitely one to keep your eye on. TikTok ads is projected to grow within, I think, the next 5 to 7 years and be larger than Facebook and YouTube combined. So at today, it might not be, the place to worth advertising, but, a couple of years, it might actually take over and be the #1 platform to advertise on. So only time will tell, but that's where we're at. When you have all these systems in place, social media advertising is the last thing you're probably going to need to do, and it's going to help you, boost those numbers. How we get profits up the next couple of years, these are the steps it's going to take. So, and then, like I said, if you look at the side, I have the automation aspects. You want to make sure that a lot of these aspects have been automated, and when they're automated, it reduces time for you to actually do other things. So that's why you want to free up that time, so that way you do have the freedom to go out and hire more people, figure out more things on your business, invest in your own business. And then once you get that aspect, retargeting. Retargeting is a great little phenomenal. I'll do another webinar on that one, but that's essentially where someone comes to your website, you give them they get essentially like a little pixel, and then that pixel follows them across the internet. Anytime they go to a Google site, they'll be advertised to your website in a non-invasive way. It's a very great way of doing things. And so that's just, I think that's the foundations that you need to have set up right. So how do we get our SEO right? First, you want to figure out what your keywords are. Figuring out where your most important keywords, what they are, and how they're being used on Google Ads. They're definitely going to be bid on and bid against, and there's definitely tools you can use to find it, like Google tool, ad tool word can definitely help you out with that. You want to know what your service areas are and what your search volume is. When you learn those things, this is the start of getting it right. Like I said, Google keyword tool, that's what it was. WordStream, SpyFu, these are ways, and even Google Ads allows you to find platforms that will figure out what your best keywords are. You want to say, like I said, I mentioned this with one of those things was the Penguin update, getting your website set up with unique pages. You said having unique content while also adding in those keywords, and this is a big one. I know this doesn't happen everywhere, but it needs to. These are the things that make the biggest difference. Pages for each of your services, and then pages for each of your service areas, and that's the different cities that you're in. Now, when I mentioned those, Google gives you a point for each page. It's a point for each service area. It's a point. That's a great way to rack up points. I've worked with someone. I've done some consultations with people in different plumbing, webbing, HVAC, roofing, pest control websites. And one of the things I mentioned, and this is, I said, free advice I give everyone, is when you set up your pages for each of your services and then pages for each of your service areas, you're going to see jumps. And so I recommended that to a company. We didn't end up working together, but I still monitored how they're doing. And I found out within 3 months, they actually implemented each services and each of the service areas. And they went from being 57th, ranked on 57th for some of those keywords, and jumped all the way up to the 20th spot. So they moved up 37 spots just by changing some content on their website. And that's why I really want to make sure we're getting across. Then we want to optimize your website for the experience. You want to make sure people are having a good time. You want to make sure that they're not having to wait for your website to load up. You want to make sure that the information they're getting from you is valuable. And then you want to optimize your site for SEO. And then, like I said, this includes some of the on-page stuff. It also includes I believe some of the off-page stuff is what I got. And the off-page is, like I said, is how you build your authority. Building your authority is essentially your credibility, your reputation, how that's doing. And then this is the big one. I don't know why this isn't done. If you are actively making changes, you're going to want to see how the results are being tracked. You know, what's the end goal? Like, even if you start working out tomorrow, you might want to take some pictures of today. Hey, this is what I look like, versus at the end of it, whoa, you know, we're busting out, you know, out of our shirt because we got so ripped. But you got to track exactly how much is being done and what are the results. Because if you're not tracking, you're just essentially wasting the effort. You don't know what's working and what's not working. So I can't emphasize enough how much you need to track your results. And so I have an SEO checklist. This is something that's on my website. Just go to the digitalmarketing.com checklist. And there's a whole page. There's also additional content that comes in these checklists on how to optimize your site, how to do more than that, what ads look like, and just some overall positive information that might be valuable. So if you're interested in what you could do with your SEO, this checklist is a great tool to really help your plumbing, HVAC, or roofing business out. And then talking about those keywords, I did mention that I would show up what some of these keywords are. And so when we're looking at keywords, this is for plumbers, obviously, plumbing keywords, but it's not just, you know, plumbing, plumber near me. That is where a majority of these like keyword traffic is going, but it's not just about those ones, you know. So they might be the main keywords, and if you look at Google Ads, those are the ones that are going to be bid on the highest amounts and cost a lot of money to get these keywords in your areas. But there are other aspects. I mean, not everyone's typing in for some of these other words, and I think there's some really big ones out there that people kind of are letting slide through the cracks. Like I said, sewer line replacement's one of them. Hydrojetting is another one. Backflow testing. These are all, you know, I think these are all ways where you don't have to spend the most amount of money to get the best effort, you know. And this is just something where, you know, at face value, people only do so much. And this is a way for you to go above and beyond. So if you're working with a marketing company, these are things that they should be doing. And if you're doing this on your own, this is the information you should know. But, you know, some of these other companies that have things set up, someone who might be in the number 1, 2, or 3 spot right now might only have, you know, maybe the first top 10 of these words set up properly and aren't using it the way it should be. So I just like to throw that out there. You got to know what your keywords are. It's super valuable information. The next thing you want to look at, I believe I have set up here, would be the HVAC keywords. And the HVAC keywords are also, I mean, I think they get a little crazier because it's variations, and it's variations of the same words. If you look through heating and air conditioning and heating, air conditioning and heating, portable air conditioner, air conditioning, air conditioners, AC units. I mean, those were there's a million of them, and you just have to know which ones are the most popular, which ones are being used, and how to implement those on your website properly. And so, like I said, the number one step is just knowing and understanding what they are. And if you're able to combine them with, like I said, your city or your service areas that you're trying to get up. So when I say have city on here, it's a combination. And so if we look back and forth between plumbing and HVAC, it's your city, and that represents the different service areas that you're saying. So air conditioning, you got air conditioning in San Jose, air conditioning in, you know, Oakland, air conditioning in San Francisco, air conditioning in Daly City, Fremont, Hayward, you know, those things. If you have different if you have different cities with different keywords, it's going to allow you to have a unique page with unique content, which is going to give you more points for that Google algorithm. And you're going to start seeing huge jumps in your Google rankings. And this is how people make it to the top 1, 2, or 3 spots which gets the majority of that traffic. I also offer, free ranking and report and some of the SEO review. I think that's just always a good standard practice to have. We look at what your online visibility is. We give you a custom keyword list, which is very similar to the ones I just showed you. We give you your ranking report to show where you're ranking on Google with a lot of these keywords. We do analysis of some of the online directories and where you're being consistent at. And then we all look at some of your online reviews and what your reputation is looking like, the authority. We also have, what's an analysis of your social presence? What does social media look like? And then finally, we have the analysis of your web conversion effectiveness. This is really crucial because, if you're bringing people to your website, you want to make sure that they're clicking the right areas, and you want to make sure that they're becoming customers. You don't want them to just come to your site, oh, nice, pretty, hey, great, now I'm leaving. You want to be able to get them and like attract them in and be able to convert them. Like I said, your website should be converting at least 25 to 30%. Next, we'll have our on-page optimization. Now, these are things that you can do to increase your on-page optimization. This is really good core content if you're, been tuning out for this webinar for a little bit, or some of it's been glazing over, you're driving or just listening. I just want to put a little emphasis on this. This is the area where you can make some active changes. These are things that you could do on your own. They're going to show very strong and have, great impacting results. So on-page optimization. You want to have a strong website with good content and a good user experience. And that content needs to be unique. You want to make sure you're leveraging multimedia to improve your on-page. And multimedia, that just means, pictures, videos, and you don't want to set up too many videos where it's going to make your website lag. But as they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And if we know what these keywords are and you're able to get the right pictures in there, again, that's going to help Google's algorithm. It's going to help your customers. They're going to want to see things. And so that's another great way to get things set up. I mentioned this before, pages for each of your services, crucial. Pages for each of the cities you serve in. Like I said, this is a great way to rack up points just with those two alone. And again, you need to have unique content, and your CRM, your customer relation management tool, it needs to be able to pass that heat map. And the way it does that is it recognizes where you're doing business location wise. So if you're in a smaller town and you're doing your business in that area, it's going to recognize that that's your area. If you want to expand out, you're going to need some geotagging. Google's going to need to know that you are like physically in that city, and the way they're doing that is they're able to track that. And best way to do that, I mean, there's systems out there that do this for you and do it really well. And I go into that a little bit. We use that all the time, and that's a great way that we help our customers expand into different cities. And like I said, I'll add some of that. I mean, actually, some of that information is actually coming up, so we'll get to that. Again, unique content for each page, crucial. You want to make sure that keywords are in the title and your H1 tags. Crucial. Your meta descriptions, you want to make sure that they stand out and that they can get, some attention and bring some of that website conversion. And again, I brought out the NAP strategy. That is huge. Name, address, phone number. I mentioned that earlier. You want to make sure that that's set up properly across the web, and you want to make sure that you have that down in your footer, so that because Google, that's where Google's looking for it, and that's where your customers should be looking for it as well. That's just, they just have it programmed in their mind. That's where it should be. That's where Google wants it to be. That's probably where you should put it as well. And then getting a blog set up with like ongoing updates. This is where you can provide valuable content because you're keeping it up to date, you're keeping it refreshed, and you're able to provide value to your customers. So I think that's just another key factor to make sure your on-page optimization is being taken. And then you want to focus on your, like I said, page speed, your desktop speed, your mobile speed. You want to make sure that these things are checked. And if you're working with a company right now, they should be telling you that information. If they're not, request it, especially for each one of these things. If you don't understand what any of these are or haven't seen any kind of information, this is what you're going to need to know. And if you're working with a company, these are the things that you should demand. So with that in mind, like I said, with videos, they're great to have on your website. I mean, if you have an hour-long video on your website explaining your whole services, it's gonna slow down your site, and Google's not gonna like that. So again, there's a Goldilocks zone where it just has to be just right, and it's not that hard to hit. It's just knowing, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna put an hour-long presentation on there. Now, when we look at off-page optimization, we want to claim and optimize our Google business listings. Yeah, for sure. I don't know how people don't do this, but I do run into a lot of prospects who haven't set up their Google My Business yet. You want to get a lot of citations across the web. And remember that Penguin update. You just don't want to be sending them out anywhere. You don't want to have 1,000 of them randomly placed. You want to have targeted, relevant backlinks, and getting your citation with your backlinks set up in the right relevant areas is what you need to do. You want to build up your online reviews, leveraging tools like Nearby Now, Bird's Eye, Review Buzz. This is a great way to do it, where as soon as the job is done, you reach out to your customer and it sends like, hey, how do we do? Can we have a review? And it's not just how we, can we have a review? It's set up as soon as the job has been closed. An SMS text message can be sent out, a phone call, or even an email to your web form. That can all be done. And right after you close the job, customer sees it, and they are more statistically likely to give you that review, especially if you had a good reaction, or you got the accomplished, you got sooner than someone wanted it to be. This just really helps that out. And let's say they don't give you a review. These tools are set up to the point where they reach out, not in an annoying way, but hey, I understand life got busy. You might have missed the time to give us a review. Here's another chance just in case you got busy. So definitely you want to build up your review process and make sure that can be automated. You want to build your authoritative links back to your website from other websites. I just covered this one. And I've talked about this whole time. Getting that set up with those directories. That's how you build your authority, your credibility, your reputation. Those things are all linked. And then you want to make sure you have strategic content syndication. And then this is usually done with the blog, making sure your blog is out there. And it's not hard if you're providing valuable content to your customers. And it's a very simple, easy thing, because what your customers' problems are, that's the content they want fixed. So if they're having issues with, why does this happen? How does that happen? Well, here's some maintenance tips how to set that up. That's a great way to set up a blog, and it's great information that people want to look at. So if we're looking at a live breakdown of some of the things we've done in the past, I wanted to show how important SEO is. And this is looking at some leads that came in. There was about 417 leads that came in. 95% of those were organic calls. The other 173, which I have circled here, came from the Google map. And again, these are all organic methods, that were used to contact, let's call this Paul the plumber here, and he was able to take a lot of this information just by having the right kind of optimization set up on page and off of his website. Now, if you look, we also have ads set up, getting your PPC campaign set up. You do get money from that. It does bring in return, and you can get a lot out of it. But I just want to focus that it was 127 calls came from your Google ads, and then the other 268 calls that came from your organic SEO, your organic optimization. And when we're doing the math on that, I mean, I did some rough math in my head. It's roughly about 65% is coming from your organic SEO. So that means a majority of your traffic and the leads, and then the quality of those leads, are going to be coming from your organic traffic. And so in those last pages where I showed you how to optimize and get better results, this is the real results that are coming out of it. And again, this is from one of our live clients. Another thing I think that really helps out would be how you rank on the Google My Business. That is the actual map. And so there are 3 key factors to rank higher on the map. The first one is your NAP strategy. Name, address, and phone number has to be consistent across anywhere on the web, including social media. Your on-page SEO, which we just showed you how to do that properly. And your reviews. If you only have 1 or 2 reviews, that you're actively going to have to make changes to get that set up, because your reviews matter. That's whenever you look for any type of service or restaurant you want to go to, you want to look at those reviews to see what people are saying. Are they saying, hey, this place is great, let's go to them? Or trust me, you're going to waste a lot of money if you do. So that's another big aspect. And then again, there's some search engine optimization. These are things we went through: on page, off page, some of the technical stuff, the indexing, the crawling, sitemap, the speed. Again, we've done all this. And a big part of the SEO I have right here in the bottom right hand corner is it's the trust, your expertise, and authority. We start dominate. That's what SEO allows us to do. It allows us to get the customer's trust. It allows us to build our own expertise and showcase it. And then the authority, our credibility, definitely improves in that sense as well. So you can see how, again, with this pyramid, the organic foundations are your SEO. That's where your website's going to be. So it's right there. That's the most solid foundation you can build. And like I said, a lot of it can be done without adding a lot of money to it. In the beginning, you don't have to spend $1 to do some of these changes. And then you build up. That's what you want to do. But you want to make sure your foundations are set up now. So I would like you to review this, drop in your comments, your concerns. Feel free to reach out to us, thedigitalmarketing.com. You want to give us a call, please feel free to do so. But you should take a look at your organic foundations and see if things are done correctly or properly. Or if you're working with someone, I've given you some of the tools to go back and say, hey, I want to know a little bit more about my organic SEO. How are we doing there? What elements are we using? Are we doing this elements? And those are things you should be using. I also have some of the 12 critical elements to enhance your conversion. This is something I really added in last webinar in our PPC campaign, just as this is little things that help your website. You have authentic images, which is a big one. People want to see you and your face and your team, what they look like. Do you offer coupons? Are you using live chat? What's your site speed? And some of these things are, you'll notice, are consistent for everything across the board. Again, your NAP strategy. If that isn't done right, then it's going to affect more than just one area, especially just the SEO of things. And then this is another one out here: questions to ask your PPC provider. I wasn't originally going to add this one in here, but recently Dave reached out. Dave, if you're listening, hey, how's it going? I hope these questions helped out. Dave with Grizzly Heating and Air. He really is the reason why this slide's on here, because I just realized that it could be beneficial. I had in my last webinar about Google Ads, and I just realized, what, this is beneficial information. If you are working with a PPC campaign, you should be asking some of these questions. What's the budget? Are you using Google Ads, and what does the web form conversion tracking look like? That's a big one: web form conversion tracking. What are our KPIs? What are our average cost per lead? How do we plan to get that down? Are there specific landing pages for each of our ad groups, or is this all going to the home page? Do we split test ads, which is, using an ad that you've used in the past and changing a little to see if it does better or worse? Are we using ad extensions? What's our projected ROI? What's the time frames of these things? These are crucial questions that give the power back to you and kind of allow you to know, where are things going and how you're going to get there. And if you have someone that gives you a straight answer and is looking well, then great. If you have someone that's giving you the runaround, then you know that, hey, you know what, maybe these people aren't the ones for me. And then again, it's conversion tracking. Like I said, that's super important. I just want to throw that out there. That's set up. I just want to make sure if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, reach out to me. I've mentioned this a couple times. And I just love to talk. I went into some of the page search stuff. We want to hear from you. That's what we want to do. So please subscribe, go visit our Facebook, visit our website, drop some comments here, or just reach out, digitalmarketing.com/contact, or, give us a call, 510-274-1470. So that's anything I had. Any questions, I'd love to answer them. Like I said, I could speak all day on these topics. I won't talk your ear off here. I'll give you concise questions and get everything set up properly. But it was a pleasure to be able to inform everyone here, and I hope someone at least took something out of this. Okay. Have a great day. Goodbye.